Thank you for tuning into my channel where I talk about my favorite thing in the world, voiceover. Today I am especially excited because we are going to be talking about 5 books that I have found to be very helpful for me starting out in the voiceover industry. I want to talk about each book in quite some detail so you can see what they're all about and see which ones are right for you before you go and spend time and money in finding these books. I have a lot of these in actual print because that's what I love and I like to write in them that way. And there are some books that I do have as a PDF so I could put on my different things like my tablet and computer and things like that. So I'm really excited, so let's jump into it. We're going to do a slide with the titles of all 5 books, and we'll do that again at the end. And I'm really excited to tell you guys all about what I really love. The first book that I'm going to talk about is The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I absolutely love this book. It's about being creative in every aspect of your life, and it's not specifically about voiceover. It's a lot of fun. I literally love every single thing about this book, so I'll just talk about 5 for now so the video isn't too long. So the first one that I really like is The Morning Pages. So when you get The Artist's Way, you can get the book on its own, or you could get the combo pack that comes with the journal like I did. And the difference between that Morning Pages journal and just any other one that you might love at any other store is that the Morning Pages journal has quotes. So one of the quotes that would be in the Morning Pages journal is, "Extreme emotions of any kind, the very thing that the morning pages are superb for processing, are the usual triggers for avoiding the pages themselves." So it's really good to have a journal that has those quotes in there, or if you're like me and you love quotes, you can do that in any journal. So I actually have a couple of pages that are just quotes from people that I know or famous people and just stuff going from like what my therapist has told me, and then another quote that I really like by Jim Carrey. So you can do whatever you like that inspires you. So I have both. I have the journal that comes with the book and this one so I can keep it on the go because the journal for The Artist's Way is really big. Another good point of getting that is it kind of tells you how much they want you to journal, but they just basically tell you 3 pages. I also journal in the afternoon, so I start my day job early, so I'll journal before I clock into work. And then I considered after work to be an entire other day for me because I love to do voiceover for a while before I chill. So I have that Morning Pages also be in the afternoon. That helps my brain separate the day job from having the time of my life and being productive. So that's another thing that I like about it. It also really helps you find your patterns and you can see your thought processes. They do mention in The Artist's Way not to go back and reread so many things and also don't really share it with people. But I've also used The Artist's Way to honestly go back anyways and read them so I can see how I felt and what I was fearing towards the beginning of when I started versus now. So I was able to see the progress and how confident I'm becoming. And also I can see maybe kind of get some inspiration from the frustrations that I felt before. And another thing about journaling is that sometimes I have no idea what I'm going to say, and with The Artist's Way, they want you to journal for 3 pages. So I like to start off with, I have no idea what I'm going to write about. This is so silly, I would rather be doing something else. But as I get myself writing, I end up coming up with stuff. Even if it's all complaining, it's journaling and it counts. And it helps you get more in touch with your emotions. And emotions play a huge role in everything, especially voice acting. So that's the Morning Pages for you. I really like also the artist's date that The Artist's Way tells you about. So that is about going by yourself somewhere really cool that nurtures your inner artist, that The Artist's Way describes to be your inner child. So for me, I had to really separate and find out things that are fun to do rather than doing things that are more studious, which is very fun for me, but it's also not the idea of the inner artist, inner child kind of thing. So for me, I went to Barnes & Noble to get a coloring book or a fiction book for fun rather than going to get another psychology book or something more studious like that. I also even took myself to Build-A-Bear because I love that place. And going there by myself was kind of nerve-wracking. And even just from that single artist date, I just had so much more confidence after that. So some people like to go places themselves. I didn't before I did this book, but now I love to. And they do want you to go by yourself because that's kind of in Julia Cameron's idea, the whole point of it. So the other thing, it helps build confidence, helps build independence, and also you can be inspired no matter where you are, what you're doing. You don't have to be at your desk writing. You don't have to be in front of the mirror acting. You could be doing anything, and it's good to have a balance between fun and work. Otherwise, you can get burnt out like I tend to do. Anyways, we'll get over to number 3. The book, The Artist's Way, is mostly about building confidence in your creativity. And I really like the way that they went about it. I like how Julia Cameron wrote as if she's talking to me. So one quote that I really like in this book that kind of encompasses this point is towards the beginning. It goes, "Going sane. Trusting your creativity is a new behavior for many of us. It may feel quite threatening initially, not only for us, but also our intimates. We may feel and look erratic. This erraticism is a normal part of getting unstuck, pulling free from the muck that has blocked us." So I really like this one. To me, this quote means that when you notice, address, and challenge your inner critic, you can make a breakthrough, and it's really uncomfortable, and that's normal. I really, really like that it's put out there so I'm not feeling alone in the process of becoming more of myself. So in that, for me, I had to shed a lot of the expectations that other people put on me. Whether people telling me that I shouldn't be talking too much or I shouldn't be so loud. When I started to do the Artist's Way again, I started being more of my silly goose self. And it's become really fun to do everything in my life. I work at sales for my regular job, so it's really come in handy for that and just talking to people. And it's also helped me be more willing to try new things. So the other thing I like that the quote pointed out is that acting differently is also noticed by other people, and it's not always going to be bad. So, of course, there are going to be people that are going to rain on your parade no matter what, especially if you're starting to be happier and people see more joy. And also, there are going to be people that are on your side and support you that are going to be curious and be like, "Hey, you used to be shy," or "Hey, you're in a really good mood. What's going on?" And it's really good to not overthink that compliment and to have conviction in saying, "Yes, I'm learning to be more creative. I'm learning to be more myself." And it just becomes that much more fun when you learn to have more conviction behind it. And it's really good to just be able to get out of your shell. Everyone always has told me, you got to be out of your shell. You got to stop being so quiet. And when a book is actually easing me into it by doing the artist date, by journaling, it really seems more manageable and achievable. And number 4 that I like about this book is the week-by-week plans, check-ins, and the journal and entry prompts. So I love interactive books. I write in every single book that I have, unless it's a first edition, because that's how I remember things. Whether I highlight it or write my own notes or write a definition for a word that I don't know, it helps me process and helps me keep paying attention. And so when I find a book that is made to be written in, I'm hooked and I just get really, really excited. And this book is like that in a really friendly, candid, and really encouraging way. So another thing that I like about this book is that it gives you writing prompts. So an example of one of the prompts, I wrote it down here. It says, writing where your time goes. It says to write 5 habits that you dedicate your time to. Then you analyze the pros and cons of each one and in the time spent doing this. So depending on the habit, it's helped me either spend more time doing that thing or less time in doing something else instead. So that's an example for one. And I really also like how this book and a lot of other voiceover books touch on going away from perfectionism. One quote about perfectionism here from The Artist's Way is, "The perfectionist is never satisfied." So being able to read that is kind of a wake up call for me. And it's also really nice to see that I'm not the only one. A lot of artists tend to be perfectionists, But you get your best ideas when you're just focusing on being a great version of yourself and having fun. And that is something that the Artist Way has really instilled on me. And it really has helped me stop trying to be such a perfectionist, because that really takes the fun out of everything. I'm going to touch on that again in the other books too. And then I really like the other quote that this book has that says, "For an artist, withdrawal is necessary." So it's really, really important and good to know how to create a work-life balance. Because if you're like me, you have another job, then you have the voiceover, that's another job, if not more, because you have to study too, and then you have a social life, or you have to recharge yourself. So the Artist's Way not only tells you how to do things, it also teaches you when to stop to do things and to listen to yourself and to really relax when you need to, so you can always be up to your game and be happier. Because even if you're like me, I love voiceover, but at first I didn't know when to stop. So I noticed that I was just really more stressed out than I was having fun. So that's very important. That's just one example of the prompts and stuff. So number 5 about this book, the last thing I'll talk about that I love, is the quotes and words of encouragement throughout the entire book. On every single page, it seems, there is a quote about just what you're learning about, a fun little tidbit about how someone else views creativity. So, as you may have noticed, I'm obsessed with quotes. I even have some of the Artist Way quotes in my notebook that I have here. So that's really nice. I want to share 2 quotes right now. So the first quote is about perfectionism. "Perfectionism has nothing to do with getting it right. It has nothing to do with fixing things. It has nothing to do with standards. Perfectionism is the refusal to let yourself move ahead. It is a loop, an obsessive, debilitating, closed system that causes you to get stuck in the details of what you are writing or painting or making, and to lose sight of the whole." I loved that one so much that I wrote it in here and I colored it, and it was really nice, and I read it all the time before I work on an outline for a YouTube video, before I work on something else, or before I film a video. I really love that because it helps me just stop thinking of every single detail and be excited for the bigger picture to come together. And there's just more joy that comes out when I'm just letting myself be myself and not a perfect version of myself, because that's probably, for me, never going to happen. Why try to be perfect when so many amazing things come from flaws and mess-ups? So that quote, anyway, to me, it shines a light on how perfectionism hinders my creativity. In my mind, I not only have to do it, but I have to do it right. And it has to be better than everybody else, and it has to be perfect. So one thing that I love that I noticed about voice acting, and when I'm noticing somebody else's work, it's like flowers and Christmas lights. They're both so beautiful, and I can be so happy from both, but they're completely different, so you cannot compare them. So that helped me stop comparing myself to other people. And once I focused more on just doing my best rather than being perfect, honestly, I've been doing better. So there are times where I try to fall back and being a perfectionist because I've been doing it for years and it's really all that I know. But it's scary and exciting to learn to just be an artist and understand that that includes good and bad. So that's nice. Another quote that I really like says, "We always do the best by the light we have to see by." So that one is really good for me because sometimes I judge myself and compare myself, maybe not to somebody else, but to me 5 years from now, me 10 years from now. And I'm just trying and getting frustrated of not having these skills that I haven't even started on working on yet, and it doesn't happen overnight. So this quote made me smile when I first saw it. Once again, I wrote it in here, and I really, really love that it just reminds me that I'm learning and I can be great at every single stage that I do. So that's where I'm going to stop with the Artist's Way, because I could probably make a 30-minute video just on that one because I really, really, really love it. Now we are going to go and talk about book number 2. This one is going to be a little more technical. It is called The Professional Voiceover Handbook by Peter Baker. I got this book on Amazon, and I believe that there is a PDF about it too. So this one is more technical than The Artist's Way, yet it's still written in a nice, friendly, familiar kind of tone, emotion, so you don't feel like intimidated or overwhelmed. So there are 5 things I like about this book too. So we're going to get started. Number 1 is that it doesn't have to be read in order, which is really awesome. So I can read what pertains to my situation now or just what I'm interested in and just flipping through the book without having to go from chapter 1, 2, and 3 worrying about me missing something. So I really like that. And the chapters are also short and to the point. So it's a quick and easy read. So there are things that I like there are different techniques like breath exercises that I like that are in this book that I can find quickly because the table of contents are organized nicely and each chapter is short. I can go through the exercises and be golden, good to go. I can also go and figure out what I'm interested in. So right now, I want to learn more about agents. I'm not there at the moment, but I want to learn about it. So I can go and pause my spot of where I am about learning more about marketing myself. And then I can go more towards agents who do the marketing and stuff for you. Also, there's less pressure to read them so often because it's so freely organized. So it's something that I like to have on my coffee table and kind of, instead of scrolling on my Instagram and TikTok and stuff, I'll just have maybe a 20-minute reading session instead. And they're so short. It can even be something like an exercise that I talked about in one of my previous videos where you read a section of a book with emotion. So you're also learning and you're also practicing. So that's really fun too. Another thing that I like about this book is that it teaches you really good voiceover techniques and it gives you information about the voiceover industry. So you get 2 sides of it that both come together. You need to know it all. So one technique that I really like is called self-monitoring, and it really comes in handy when you are recording something at a home studio or at another outside professional recording studio and you don't have the director, your client, with you at the moment. So you're able to kind of see what you're doing, make sure you're reading naturally, and to just kind of float above yourself and check it out and not be so harsh in the moment that you're embarrassing yourself or getting all nervous and tripped up, but to be more mindful. He calls it the 3rd head. So that's about self-monitoring. So that one is really, really cool and comes in handy. It also, I noticed once I started doing that, I can kind of tell through my pacing when I start to kind of lose my thoughts. So I can kind of see where I'm faltering, even kind of in these videos, and get picked up back where it was and make sure that I'm not, for example, for this video, making sure I'm not reading this all on the spot and not looking up at all. Stuff like that. So just learning that, once again, that's something I learned before I even got into a studio, and it comes in handy. So a lot of these techniques are also things that you practice. So that's really cool. An example of what the voiceover industry is looking for, according to Peter Baker, is time management. How they want you to show up early in order to be prepared, expect there to be something getting in your way so you can work on your time management. So that one is really nice. And he also talks about being prepared for there to be changes in the material when you get there, because that often happens in the industry. And there are cold reads too, where they just give you the script, you get a little bit of time to see, and you're not really prepared. So you're reading it. So it's really cool to learn to emote and not just read. So through this and the other books we're talking about, paired with an artist developer, there are so many things that you can learn. It's really cool. So we're going to go on to number 3, is it teaches you how to market yourself. It explains what an agent is and kind of the parameters for that. In chapter 40, it's called Marketing Your Voice, Get More Work. And it's talking about how working with an agent is very common, but also working without an agent is called independent voiceover. They're talking about with an agent, they do most of the marketing for you, although you still have to have personable skills and, market yourself because your voice is their commodity. You gotta be an asset. And that it also, he tells you that when you have an agent, you can't keep applying for stuff on Backstage because you want to avoid double booking. And so Peter Baker gives you tips on how to work with an agent and also tips on how to be independent. So right now what I'm doing is the independent voiceover artist because I do not have an agent at the moment. So it has really cool things like I can learn about what applies to me now and what's going to apply to me in the future, because there are things that I personally want to do that I need an agent for, such as putting up my pitch Bible to see if anyone will want to animate it. So that's something that I really like. A quote from this book that I like goes, "Most of the work will come from solid relationships you will make with studios and producers who will hire you directly and not even think about auditioning anyone else for your type of voice." So it's also really great, once again, to be personable and likable. And once you come back, people are going to think about you when someone comes. Like, for me, I'm hoping the fact that I go back to the same studio, maybe someone comes in and says, oh, hello, do you know anyone that could do a child voice? And then maybe they'll think about me. There you go. And sometimes, like for audiobooks and narration and stuff, once you get a job, they'll just keep asking you to do it because they'll like you. So that's why it's good to learn all these skills now. So you're not in the process of learning, you're rather in the process of growing when you're in the industry. So that's really nice. So I like this book that teaches you about that. So you can kind of practice what the industry is looking for. So that's really good. Another thing that I like about this book is another technical thing is the 5 vocal elements. So I found this to be really intriguing and exciting. And I'm not going to go over it in too much detail, so you'll have fun reading it yourself, but I'll just go over each of the different 5 and what it's about. So here we go. Number 5 is voice style. So that's like a narrator, a character, a certain dialect, and also who you're talking to. Like for me, I'm talking to you, someone who wants to learn about books. For my other stuff, for my commercial, I'm going to be talking about, for instance, someone who's ready to go to Disneyland. I'm going to bring them in for that commercial. If I'm going to do a animated thing for a kid's show, I got to remember the age group that I'm working for. So that's cool. Also, 2 is volume. Literal volume, like how close are you to the mic? And if your character, your script, if you're talking to somebody right here or you're talking over the crowd to somebody, you're going to want to learn how to adjust your voice. Or if you're like falling down from a cliff, you'll learn about stuff like that, and you'll be able to learn about the energy that's required for each different type of read. So for a gentle and intimate read, you're going to go slower and stuff like that and lower volume. But for authority or hard sell, or for my Disneyland one, I was talking fast, I was talking loud, I was ready to get you into the park, and we're going to go get a churro right now. You want to just use your voice to give people their dreams, to give them what they want to hear. And it's really nice. So number 3 of the 5 vocal elements is tone and emotion. So that's going to be if you're excited, passionate, solemn, sad, mad, something like that. And then it says in the book that I really like, that helped me with stuff like when I'm coming up with the exercise I mentioned about getting different emotions from a hat and reading a sentence or reading a different excerpt from a book with that. This quote reminded me of it. It says, for every adjective, there is a voice to go with it. I really like that because it reminds me that there is no such thing as writer's block if I really think about it. So that's really cool. I think about that every time I say, I'm bored, or I can't think of anything, or I can't do this. I'll just think about that. And then number 4 is speed. That's the tempo of the script. And you also have to think about the time that you have allotted for the script and how much information you need to fit in there. So we've all seen those commercials that are slower, and at the end for the medication, they hit you with a million different side effects in a really, really fast pace, and they want you to focus more on the other stuff rather than all of that because it takes up a lot of time. So that voice actor has to just get it right and focus on a really fast speed and a quick tempo. Also, there are different ones for me, for my commercial that I wrote, I did a treatment center. So I did a slower, softer one to make it sound more comforting and less rushed. So that's cool. And then it also says in this book that generally enthusiasm and excitement need a faster speed, as you can tell that I'm genuinely using right now because I'm excited about this, and a faster pace than a script describing refinement or beauty. I like how they put that. It helped me think about it in a different way, and also from seeing in different clients that I could have in the future. Also, the fifth vocal element is pitch. So there's a low register, there's a middle pitch, and then there's higher up. And it's also about if you're high addressing the crowd like this, different placements, stuff like that, like falsetto. And you want to think about your target audience. I like this little one because I read it in this voice. He says, reading an audiobook of little children, a pace that requires a pitch range. Okay, let's start this over. Reading an audiobook for little children, a pitch range that swoops up wildly and low between very high is often quite appropriate. So for them, you once again think about your target audience. So I really like that. So another part that I like about the book as a whole is that the author, Peter Baker, relates his own experience to the different topics that he's teaching you about. So scattered throughout the book, he relates to himself. One thing that I like is that he told a cute little story when he is talking about volume and pitch and stuff, like using the energy required for the voice, for the different task at hand. So the real story that he tells you, the quick little one, says, "Years ago, I regularly presented the pre-match entertainment for Manchester United at the Old Trafford Stadium as a part of my work for Piccadilly Radio. I had to make sure that my diction and projection was perfect, and the speed of delivery compensated for the insane echo reflections around the ground, without speaking so slow it would sound like I was on volume." So I like how it was a little silly, but he also brings light talking about being aware of your surroundings. And that makes me think about also, am I sitting? Am I standing? Is my posture right? Stuff like that. So it also has different things when he talks about finding different work and how he said in his experience that he gets more repetitive work from having good relationships with people in the industry. So that's about it for book number 2. Now we are going to get into book 3. This one is really fun. It's called Word Power Made Easy by Norman Lewis. This book is really important for voiceover because I have been told, and I firmly believe, that voiceover artists should have a vast vocabulary and at least also learn how to pronounce words on the fly, because there are going to be times when you don't know what you're seeing in front of you, but you're going to be able to figure out how to do a passable way in the meantime before someone properly explains how it should be said. So this book is really technical and is more about strictly learning words, and I am obsessed with it. It's really, really, really fun. So number one point that I like about this is it starts out with assessing your starting vocabulary. So don't be like me. Don't try to be perfect, because you just want to figure out where you're at, and you're not going to turn in the test to anybody. That's what my mind was telling me. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're not supposed to study for this. You're supposed to take it randomly and see where you're at. Don't be hard on yourself. So there are light quizzes that kind of see where you're at, and they take about 10 minutes. It has different things like match the definition, or this word is to this word, stuff like that. So you're able to see where you're at, and then it has a different scoring. And it's also cool to write it in there and see where you're at. And then for me, I took it later on, and I was able to see that I got a higher score. And I was also able to see, because each part of the test is kind of themed, I can see what kind of words are tough for me. So that's really nice. Number 2 is that I like how the sessions are, that's what they call the chapters, are sessions. They have really cool matching exercises. So it's going to teach you about an interesting topic, and at the end, the exercise will just kind of make sure that you're paying attention. So it's particularly helpful for me because it is also very interactive, like the artist's way, and it helps me retain knowledge when I handwrite notes and when I highlight, and that is what I do with this book, so that's really helpful for me. And I like the quizzes. They're not super hard. It's like true or false sometimes too, so you can see where you're at. And once I learned to just stop trying to be perfect about it, it was really awesome. It's really a lot more fun to enjoy learning rather than feeling like you have to. So that's why this book particularly matches my interest of learning words. It's something that I've always loved. So just see if you're interested in that before you go and get it. It's really, really cool. And then the other thing, speaking of the quizzes and stuff, is that it checks your progress throughout the book. So it's going to be able to give you an eclectic little mix of the different subjects you've learned periodically through the book. It keeps what I've learned fresh in my mind. Also helps me if it's, sometimes I read a book and I put it away for a while and then I read it again. So when I'm playing catch up, I'm able to go through the exercises and see what I answered, see the right answers, and then go and see, and it makes sure that I'm keep remembering that we're a couple of sessions before and not only focusing on the first one that's right in front of me. So I like how it does those check-in progresses, and it helps me shake off my perfectionism because I never freaking got an A+. So I'm always striving for an A+, but it teaches me to not be so perfect, and it's okay that it's not perfect. So that one's really good. It's all about learning, and you can celebrate your achievements of getting maybe a little bit more. If you got less, you gotta figure out what's going on. It's fun to learn whether you're getting 100% or 50%. What the fact that I'm actually putting myself out there to do it is what matters to me the most. So number 4 about this book, I like how it's organized in different themes. To me, they're super funny. So they have ones that are cool, like how to talk about science and scientists. And other ones, my personal favorite one is how to insult your enemies. So it's going to teach you in that one words that seem like kind of nice, not too mean, that are completely insulting. So I really, really like that. The book is also very technical, but it has a lot of comedic relief through stuff like this. And so that was really, really funny. And also because it's set up that way, it's easy to kind of pick and choose what I want to read. How I mentioned with the other book of how it's organized, you don't have to read it in order. I like to do this book in order though, because I like to do the exercises in order, but it's up to you. It's really cool for voiceover in particular because say you're, for example, the science and scientists. Say you're going to do a narration for a science documentary and you're not that well versed in it. You can kind of learn about some words that may be in the script you're getting or are in the script that you're getting, and you can learn the definitions and how to properly pronounce it. So that's really, really cool. So the other thing that I like, number 5, about the this word power made easy is that it teaches you how to speak naturally. Like you're having a conversation and you're not reading off of a page. What I really like, there's a quote that's really cool in here that I want to put into this video. It goes, "Speech, after all, is in some measure an expression of character and flexibility in its use. And it's a good way to tell your friends from your robots." So I really like this. It also helps me, like, for instance, when I do this video, there's some times when I kind of stutter or I get so excited, I get tripped up, but I just keep going because it's natural. Who's going to talk for 30 plus minutes perfectly? Other people that have been doing this longer than me, but not for me right now. So I really like that. That quote is kind of highlights how there's different conversational rules that are different than grammatical rules. So one thing that I like is I love grammar. And there's going to be times when you say whom, right? That's going to be the proper word. Or whomever. But I've learned in this book, and also in real life situations, he says, it isn't always appropriate to follow the rigid rules in grammar like you would in an essay. An example he gives is whomever. He says, while it may be grammatically correct, it may come off as pretentious in an everyday conversation. So that's something that's really kind of fun in this book and good to know, and also good to build characters, because that immediately made me think of, okay, I want to do a character that always says that. That's super grammar and that never reads the room and can see that that's totally rude. And then I thought of a character that knows that it's rude and does it to kind of piss them off. So you can see, once again, get inspired by anything. Looking for my water. All right, so book 4, we're almost done. We're going to talk about 5 books. The 4th book we're talking about is The Method Acting Workbook by Lola Cohen. So this book I do not have in an actual book. I couldn't find it. So my artist developer, James Spencer, gave me the PDF for it. So that's really cool. I have it on my tablet. So that was awesome because I was able to highlight it. And I also took a lot of handwritten notes because putting a pen to paper really solidifies it in my mind. That's how I learned. So this book is incredibly helpful because it teaches, as you can see in the title, method for acting in voiceover. So it's kind of technical, and it has a lot of different really cool exercises that you could use. So I'm going to start off with 5 things that I like about this book. The first one is that it has a very intriguing introduction. I like that it talks about the author and where she learned from. She also was talking about how that she learned from Lee Strasberg when she was learning to become a voiceover artist, and she decided to create that book to teach people what she's learned because she thinks it's so helpful. And this book has been recommended by a lot of different people in the industry. So I was really excited to learn about it. So anyways, it also, since the book, it introduces the book and what's going to be in it, like different exercises. And what I really loved about this book is it gives you different exercises and the advice on how to do them. So I just wanted to share those really quick. There's 8 of them. So I wanted to say, for the exercises to use repetition in the same sequence. That's what she says. Number 2, decide what exercises work best for you. Evaluate your work and take notes of your progress, responses, and emotions. Also good to check in and see where you need to improve and where you've been doing a great job. Number 3 is choosing the right exercises for a roller production is trial and error. She emphasizes being patient with yourself. Number 4 is immerse yourself in all art forms to foster creativity. I totally agree with this. I also think that it could also be helpful just to go on a walk and to wonder about things. For me, when I have a strong sense of wonder, I have a strong sense of creativity. Also, number 5 for the 8 suggestions is it helps to learn about psychology, specifically emotions and behaviors, to learn about why people do the things they do and what emotions lead to different actions. So that also, obviously for me, helps me create characters. And it's really, really fun. I really like that. Number 6 says that having empathy for others can better help you understand sensing, thinking, and valuing. And that's all core concepts of truthful acting, which we will explain in further detail later in this video. Number 7 is being healthy and to have a sound mind and body. She recommends stuff like Tai Chi, yoga, meditation, things like that. And number 8 is to formulate your own way with working with this book and that the exercises are not set in stone. So do it in whatever order you want, whatever way you want, and also taking charge and not always following the rules and always asking for approval really helps you build that confidence and get more ideas. So that's really great, all about that introduction. Number 2, I really like the fact that they highlight the importance of using your own emotion and experiences for your characters. So throughout the handbook, the author talks about relating your own emotions and experience to get better quality acting. It helps with truthful acting. For me, it's especially helpful when I'm voicing a character that's going through a hard time. I did a character that is fantasy, but it's inspired by me when I was struggling with anorexia. And when people would just tell me, please stop, please don't you understand that you're doing something wrong, and I didn't. So honestly, when I was doing that character, it sounded rigid until I let myself feel it, and I was crying. And it was really, really good to remember how I felt in the moment when my mom was talking to me, and I was able to imagine and how my character was feeling, use that same sadness to beautiful use and to create something amazing. So I really, really like that. And also the book talks about analyzing your own behavior outside of your acting and journaling and stuff like that. So once again, with the Artist's Way, it's another reason why journaling is so helpful. It's even mentioned in this book here. It's also good to go back into your journal and to see where you can improve and also celebrate your victories. And another thing that I love that was also kind of difficult for me, this book teaches you how to relax. That's point number 3 for the method acting workbook. So I truly, really, really enjoy these exercises because I have trouble relaxing, and to read it in a book and that it's telling me how to do it made it a lot easier. When I was reading the book for the first time, this whole part is why I wanted to continue reading it, because there are a lot of books out there that will teach you how to act. The fact that this had such importance on relaxation just made it like it was calling to me. So I really, really like that. It also talks about really nice things with perfectionism. A quote that I like in reference to the relaxation exercises is that the relaxation exercise will strengthen your concentration as and major preparation in the work by eliminating tension, which can stop the mind and body from responding and functioning fully. So right now, as you can see, I'm getting a little stumbled up on my words, so it's probably a good time to just breathe and relax, and it helps you center yourself. Also, relaxing helps you get in like a neutral perspective, so then you can kind of from there get into the emotion of your character. So when you learn how to relax for acting, for me, helped me want to relax every single day to make sure that I take care of myself, because I feel so much better after relaxing. I didn't know how tense I was until after I was doing exercising like this. So let me just give you an example of an exercise. So in this one, it says to sit and rate yourself on how you feel on a scale of 1 to 10. So sit in a chair, close your eyes, and think about how you feel. Right now, I think I feel a little stressed out, but in an excited way. So I feel probably about a 5. So if I were to be doing this exercise, I'm going to sit and ask why I feel this way. I'm going to think about the different unhelpful thoughts that are there, and I'm going to let those thoughts go. And that took a lot of practice. It helps me visualize it. So I'll close my eyes and I'll imagine that each one of my thoughts, I'll write it on a balloon and then I'll let it go. And then I'll be able to kind of, for example, I'm worried about this video not being amazing because I always want everything to be amazing. So I think about that, let it go. And through practice, I have more of a sense of relief, and I'm focusing more on having fun with making this video rather than making it perfect. So there's a play, and a reason why I love this book is once I read it, it comes into play. I can apply it in almost any moment of my life. I really like that exercise because it helps me center myself, and it gives me a break from all the stress and hustle and bustle of trying to be a person, because it's pretty difficult sometimes. So the other thing that I like about this book that it talks about was a new topic for me, and it wasn't familiar, is sense memory. A quote about that goes like this. All acting takes place in the character's present moment. The duality must be merged and can be achieved by activating each of the 5 senses so that they are receptive to interpreting the reality of your character. So this point is fascinating to me because it helps me stay in the present moment and then imagine how my character would be in this present moment. I can see, what am I seeing? I see out the window beautiful birds. What am I feeling? My nice cozy sweater, stuff like that. Then I could put my character, one of my favorite characters is a goblin. What would my goblin be sitting and feeling if they were in this room? What would they be thinking? They live in a cave. How would they feel? Anyways, I could talk about that forever. A quote from this part of the book says, all actors are students of humanity, and practicing these exercises will make you more observant and better able to recall, recreate, and use the behaviors of your characters, the intent behind it. So for me, it makes me think of just how when I read a book, my imagination kind of conjures up the setting and what's going on. I can do this too with voice acting, and when I feel lost, using my 5 senses is not only good to help me stop feeling so anxious, but to help me get in the presence in my present moment and also my character's present moment and the way they would be doing, whether it's in the script or literally what they would be doing right now in this chair, what they would be doing when they're watching this video. So that's pretty cool. That's sense memory. Number 5 that I liked about this book is character development. So that's one of my favorite things about being alive is developing characters. That's why I took that Pitch Bible course. That's why I learned about the Laban efforts. I love character development. So when the book talks about character development, it says the first step is reading and working with the script to discover the essence of that scene. So from there you can discover the complexity and the character that you're playing through the sensory work we mentioned and research, which is very important, and practicing exercises. So a quote that I really liked that helped me get all pumped up every time I do a character says, you claim the character by generating the ideas and impulses that will inspire and motivate you into dramatic action within the context of the given circumstances. I love this quote because it's empowering to me to claim that character. That's you. You are that character. It's yours. That's your baby. You're going to use your voice to make yourself proud. You're going to get into the character of your client and make them proud. You get to just bring a whole entity to life, a whole universe to life. And this book teaches you how to do that yourself. So you're not only just working for other people, you can create your characters too. So that's really exciting. Another point that they talk about with character development is improv. They're really passionate about improv in this book, and so am I. And it's also touched in a lot of other books too, that improv is so helpful. So a quote from this in regards to improv says, improvisation inspires you to face and deal with the challenges of the character by looking at the world differently, taking risks and making spontaneous connections, all of which can lead to solutions that carve out a path towards the character. So that's really inspires me to be less of a perfectionist and a control freak, and it also helps me try new things. Improv is a lot harder than I thought. It takes a lot of practice. So anyone that just does improv, you're awesome. It's nervous for me to do improv exercises other than with people that I know. So I'm working on getting into actual classes and doing it because it's really good to just work that imagination up. So that's really nice. They say improv and creating character without a script is difficult at first. It takes consistent practice, but it builds confidence and fosters creativity. So don't be self-conscious. Just let yourself be silly, and it's okay if you mess up. Who cares, honestly? There are going to be a lot of bad ideas before you have a great idea. So please don't get discouraged like I did. There was a point where I was trying to be perfect at improv, which is not a good idea. So I actually stopped doing it for a while, and honestly, I missed out on a lot of fun. So, book 5, the last book that we are going to go over today, is Voiceover Techniques and Tactics for Success by Janet Wilcox. So, this book is another very technical book, but it's written in a nice, familiar tone. And I'm going to talk about 5 things that I like. This one's really fun. It's set up like a game. So the chapters start with like the number 1 is the rules of the game. And then the last chapter is welcome to the games, agents, and going pro. So because it's formatted this way, it's more fun. So I can for me, I read multiple books at once. So I'll be reading the one we just talked about, and I'll be reading this. So I'll see it more like a challenge. It's more fun, and it's more just like for a little kid, when you make the cleaning a game, it's going to be more fun. It still works for me. At 31, works. So I really, really like that. It's going to be, for me, more engaging when it's going to be set up more like a game, especially because I'm very competitive. So once again, Sammy Avalos, me, don't be perfect. You can't be perfect with voice acting. It's going to be way more fun if you have fun with the game, which is a very big part of this book too. So I like how the book's set up. The second point that I like about the book that we're talking about now, the Voiceover Techniques and Tactics for Success, is that I like the goal that they say is the goal of voiceover. To them, according to the voiceover book, it says the goal of voiceover is to have a free-flowing imagination. Super fun. This book highlights the importance of improv. That was just in the last book too, but they really emphasize it in this book. In addition to creating characters, improv skills can improve flexibility, quick thinking, and thinking outside of the box, which is good not only in the booth, but when you're going to meet a client in person, or you're going to go work with other voiceover artists, or just work in your day job. These kind of skills can help me specifically adapt to different things that go on, because I am learning to stop being such a control freak. So that's really nice. They talk about improv a lot. Another thing that they continue to say about it is that it helps build the imagination muscle. Janet Wilcox talks about how the voiceover artists specifically have to use their imagination a lot because we don't have props. We often don't even have people to work with. We can't really move around that much. You can move like this, you can stand around, but you can't move like you can in on-screen acting. You can't actually fall down, you know. So using your imagination is super, super important. And for me, I'm very imaginative, so I was able to see where I'm at and just build from that. But even if you say you don't have an imagination or much of one at all, you can learn. It's okay. Don't be discouraged. They'll teach you how to become more imaginative and how to do that through improv. And it helps you spontaneously respond. See, it said helps respond spontaneously, but I messed up. But since I did this, I was able to reword it in the moment, and only maybe a few of you noticed that. So that's a real life example. And it's talking about when you're reading for your character, you may be directed to do something else entirely. So for acting, you're going to be able to respond spontaneously because you've been doing improv so much that when this time comes, you're going to be able to do it with ease, and you're going to be able to come up with so many ideas. You're going to be so much more free-flowing with your creativity because you're going to have that confidence where you're not doubting yourself and you're not going to give up. So improv does not come without work, according to Janet, and I completely agree. She says that you really, really need to be patient while you're doing it too, and to not worry about being perfect. So that one's really, really cool. I also like how they talk about the 13 rules of voiceover. So this book has a lot of information, and I believe that when I talk about the 13 rules of voiceover, it's really going to give you an idea of what we're going to go over, what they go over in the book, to see if you're interested in it yourself. So here we go. There are 13 rules of voiceover according to Janet Wilcox. That is in the, the Method Acting Workbook by Lola Cohen. I'm so sorry, it was not Janet Wilcox. We're talking about Lola Cohen and hers. So that one is really cool. Wait. No, I was right. Okay, so here's another thing about me trying not to be perfect, is that ordinarily I would have restarted this whole 48-minute video because I've messed up, but we're going to keep going on here now. So the 13 rules of voiceover, number 1 is that you must have excellent breath control. This requires constant practice to increase your ability to do slow and fast reads. This also talks about good body alignment, like sitting up straight to allow your breath to flow freely. She recommends Pilates. To do the exercises while monitoring your breath capacity is helpful too. Number 2 is you need control of all parts of your vocal instrument. So that includes warm-ups, tongue twisters for difficult reads, and constantly working on pitch variation in both singing and speaking, and it will allow you to have interesting inflections on your work. So that's my favorite tip about this book. It's really cool. Warm-ups that release tension in your jaw, your tongue, and your face are important to create a clear sound. And for this part, she recommends speech and singing classes. Number 3 is that you must have sharp read aloud skills, razor sharp. And this means that you can take a copy into a conversation, emoting, bringing life to words. I'm reading this, I'm talking to you, but I'm also reading this. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's talking about not just reading, and to practice consistently and to monitor yourself to make sure that you sound natural. Because sometimes it's really easy to fall into you're just reading out loud, and that can also come across as like you're bored. So that's something. And it's also teaching you how to keep your eyes on the page and to be in the present moment. And that's when they're talking about when you're recording. So right now I'm not doing that because I'm talking to you. I don't want to constantly be looking down. That's kind of rude. So a quote that's kind of encapsulates this point says, in a nutshell, this requires a playful imagination that is ready to respond on cue. I love this quote because it reinforces her idea of voiceover being a game. It helps take the pressure off of me, and it makes it a little more fun. And it also helps me remember to keep up with my improv stuff so things can just go easier and I can have more fun with it too. Also, the next one is going to be about not striving for perfection, because a lot of good ideas come from when you're being genuine, and that is not perfect. Number 4 is that you need to be able to make choices very, very quickly. The basic who, what, and when model of improv is very helpful, and this is really good because the voice actor needs to instantly respond to the director's comments, because you may be loving how you're doing something, but the director doesn't like it, and they could be saying, you know what, let's do it this way, which is completely different. So you're going to have to be able to follow up with that. And that's also helpful in everyday stuff, even outside of voiceover projects. Once again, like for me in this video. So being able to make choices very quickly into how to go when I notice I'm trailing off or I mess up, how to redirect and come back to it. So that applies in the voiceover booth and in stuff like this and just in general. And also number 5 is you must be able to take direction. All voice actors must fulfill the director's vision. So you have to treat it like a game. Janet Wilcox talks about making it like, okay, 1, 2, 3, let's do what the director says. So that makes it more fun. And I really like the quote that she puts in, you must leave your overstuffed ego at the door. I love that. That was my problem at first, and it was hard for me to take some feedback because I always wanted to be right. So you can't always be right. Otherwise, you're not learning anything. Talking to myself. Anyways, okay. So number 6 is that you have to have a keen ear. Listening is very important. So outside of the booth, Janet Wilcox talks about how voice actors needs to constantly be listening to their environments. Music as well, because it's also used in voiceover productions. She says, let life be your classroom, which is something that I've heard a lot. I really like that. What is really cool, because she talks about listen to pitch, listen to accents. But what I really like is how she talks about listening to silence. That was really, really, really cool. and she helps you grasp the rhythms of speech. So she talks about watching different art, listening to different genres is really helpful. So for me, I watch documentaries, I watch a lot of cartoons because that's what I really want to do. I want to be a cartoon. And I play a lot of video games. Like I said, I also really like different audiobooks too. So it's really good to listen to those types of things, even in genres that I don't personally gravitate towards automatically, because in addition to finding new things that I may love, I also get to see how different genres work, and I can kind of merge them to create my own sometimes, and notice that different ones have different pacing. Also, it talks about listening to what you heard, listening to how certain people talked, or different sounds, If you want to be a cartoon like me, maybe you need to learn how to bark like a puppy. That could be helpful, so listen to that. And she talks about going home and imitating what you heard. So that's really helpful, and all of this can help you do more truthful acting. So that's really nice. Number 7 is you need impeccable timing. Timing is what makes comedy work, and it helps you understand if your reads are long or short enough. And it helps you when you miss the mark and you have to go back in and pick up where you left off. For me, when I was recording my commercial for, I think it was the car one, I kind of messed up and mispronounced a word, and I caught it. So I did a really great job, and at a point, I even said, "Oh no, I messed up." So the sound engineer, Jerry, was like, "Okay, I'm going to play it back, and you're going to pick up where you left off." And because I had this, and I learned timing and stuff and practiced it, I was able to listen to stuff. It was so cool, hearing my own voice and the music I picked go, stop, and that's exactly where I pick back up, So that was really good. I really like this. Next one, it says you have to have a strong spirit. And that one really, really helps me in not giving up, because old me, once I've been getting towards the end of this episode that I'm doing in one shot, I would have probably restarted and cried and did it again because I messed up a couple times. So having a strong spirit is good for other stuff besides an actual paid voiceover job. She talks about having a strong spirit means things differently, whether it's religion or meditation, for me, a positive outlook on life. It all builds a solid foundation in truthful acting. So it also helps you build the resiliency you're going to need in the industry, because you're going to get rejected, you're going to mess up, and you're going to get back up and try again. And this book will teach you how to get ready to do that. Also, it teaches you that acting taps into your soul. The quote here says, "If you are soulless, your work will be too." So it helps you it touches back between the work and life balance, and constantly nurturing your soul is going to give you really, really great results in every aspect of life, especially in creativity and voice acting for us. So that's really good. Also, what I like about this part is this is when Janet Wilcox recommends The Artist's Way, which is the first book that we talked about. So that kind of reaffirmed that I'm on the right track when I'm doing my own personal reading and research. Number 9 of the different things we're talking about here is that you must understand the genres and conventions. So you want to learn what's right and wrong for different commercials, animation, audiobooks, etc. And take notes of your current limitations, but don't get discouraged, and work on your weak skills. This is when she talks about by building your weakest skills, your signature skills will become even more interesting. That is very, very true for me. Remember when I talked about the elephants falling down? Once I learned the different, moving, the voice follows the body, when I did my other character about a boy that gets sucked into a video game, I naturally just kind of fell, and it was really, really nice, and it sounded natural because I had practiced that so much. So that's really nice. So that was taking note of my limitations and working on that. Also, I really like that it talks about not being embarrassed because of this quote right here. It says, "Whatever you learn, constantly beef up of your skills in your weakest area. By building your weakest skills, your signature skills become even more interesting." So once again, that one is really nice. And it talks about reading different genres and watching plays and stuff like that, doing things that you wouldn't normally do. Number 10 is that you must be a superior salesperson and marketer. So for me, I'm a very literal person. So when I wanted to do voiceover, I learned you're a salesman. So I got a day job in sales. So that helps, but you don't have to do that. When they talk about this in the book, it's talking about standing out from the crowd, and also about how to get an agent to write out your strategies. And it also recommends reading books about marketing and sales and advertisement and stuff. And she says, don't just stop learning about the industry or learn about your voice. Keep learning about the industry. A quote here that I like that says, the more you know, the more you can meet your clients' needs. So that one is really good. It's kind of obvious, but it's nice to have it written by someone in the industry themselves. I also like how they talk about don't solely rely on agents. She says, agents come and go, and you should be able to find work on your own during the slow periods. So number 11, we're going to move on, is you must be a people person. It's incredibly important to make connections. Even when Peter Baker was talking about it in the other book, about how a lot of returning work comes from the relationships that you build with somebody else. So the more people that you know that can help you, obviously, is better. So it's good to get out of your comfort zone and go start making connections with those people. So that's really awesome. And it's talking about working on being personable and likable because it's not natural for everybody. Also for me, I feel I'm very likable, but there are times where I'm really grumpy and not likable at all. So I also needed to learn how to be likable when I don't feel like it. So it's different than acting because people can tell when you're being genuine and when you're not. So that's really cool. They even talk about that in the book. It's also talking about how you need to have a strong network of friends that can help build you up and also avoid the people that are trying to bring you down, that constantly criticize you. There were friends that I used to have that would say, are you sure you want to be famous? That's kind of difficult. Or, wow, good luck with that. I didn't like that. So I decided to surround myself with people that pump me up and that people who don't just settle for mediocrity, who want me to succeed as much as I want to succeed. And that really plays a big part in how I feel about my whole life, and especially acting. And number 12 says, play the game to win. You have to practice consistently and then make a game of it so it's never boring. Another thing that's cool that I could do, like, for instance, I was a little daunted by this video because, as we can see, it's over an hour. And I was really nervous, so I told myself, I'm going to make this like a game. I'm going to get these videos done. And then I'm going to go home to my puppy and I'm going to play my Switch. Right after I edit it, I'm going to put on a nice documentary, maybe Master Chef, maybe Bluey, and then just really chill and relax. So that just gets me more motivated. So I can start practicing with stuff like that now, for then I'll be able to have a good balance for when I get my work starting to pick up more and I start to become more successful as a voiceover artist. I really like another quote that's in here that says, love what you do so it never becomes a job. And then she keeps saying to keep raising the bar so you enjoy your quests for higher goals. So I really like that. It's not about not celebrating what you've achieved though. So for me, when I did my demo reels, oh my gosh, I did it. It's great. Now I'm going to do XYZ. I didn't look at it as I've only done my demo reels. I need to do XYZ. You really need to just pump yourself up. And once you find joy in what you're doing, it's easier to love it. And then the love comes out in your face, which comes out in your voice. So that's really nice. Positivity just kind of is contagious. So that's really helpful and good to know as a voiceover artist. And the last point that we're going to talk about, which is also towards the end of our very long video, is to expect the unexpected. I love that. So in this sense, they're talking about expect that you'll be in traffic so you can adjust your time and work on your time management. Expect that the director will ask you to take a completely different direction than what you were prepared for so you can have some different ideas on hand. And then you'll be ready to think on your feet. And it says, expect the changes to the script that you're used to so you can adapt and be ready to think outside of the box. A quote here says, in the end, the most important thing is to believe in yourself. Believe that you can do this, you should do this, and you will do this work. Visualize yourself at the microphone and keep seeing the image of yourself doing the work. Imagine it. If you believe it can happen and you have the talent and you work hard, it will happen. I completely agree with that. I love that so much. It's written, once again, in my book, highlighted with flowers written all around it. I really follow and implement that advice in my life every single day. That's why I know in my mind, heart, and my spirit that this is what I'm made for. I am a voiceover artist. I'm just waiting for someone to give me a chance. I followed the advice of literally closing my eyes. imagining myself at Adamo Studios, which is where I record, having those headphones on and just really being in the moment. And you can see it right now. I'm pumped. I'm just ready to follow my dreams. And when I doubt myself, like when I got tripped up in the video earlier, it's just reaffirms like I can do this. I will do this. It doesn't matter what happens. I'll never give up. And my personal advice on this note is that a little bit of delusion goes a really long way, for me at least. So I told myself every time someone's like, oh my gosh, being famous is a pipe dream, I'll be like, yeah. If I think about it, like as more people that think that it's unachievable, the better chance that I have of achieving it. And I also just love to think about what I'm doing this for. Just as much motivation as I can gather for this motivation, the more I will achieve. So that was awesome, you guys. Thank you for watching. That is all 5 books that I want to talk about today. I'm really glad we got through it. All the little stumbles and all. It was really, really fun. I'm going to do another slide of all the 5 books again in case you liked any of them. You can leave a comment if you have any questions. I'll totally write back to you. And yeah, these books are really, really great. And I really appreciate you watching it. It was really fun and a little nerve-wracking, but I had a lot of fun with you guys. So yeah, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe so you can get more fun videos like this.